You've probably felt it before. That quiet ache in your chest when someone you care about makes a choice you don't agree with. The frustration when a friend keeps choosing the wrong person. The worry when your child takes a path you never wanted for them. The anger when someone at work refuses to see things your way. And underneath all of that, there's a question we rarely ask ourselves. Why does it hurt so much when other people won't listen to us? There's a book that addresses this human struggle in a way that feels both simple and revolutionary. It's called The Let Them Theory, written by Mel Robbins, a motivational speaker and author who has spent years studying why we get stuck in patterns that make us miserable. This isn't a book filled with complex psychology or dense philosophy. It's a mirror held up to one of the most exhausting habits we all share: the need to control what we cannot control. At the heart of this book is an idea that sounds almost too easy. Let them. Let people be who they are. Let them make their own choices. Let them live their own lives. But as anyone who has ever tried this knows, it's one of the hardest things a human being can do. Imagine you have a sister. She's been dating someone for 2 years and you can see it clearly. This person doesn't treat her well, they cancel plans, they make promises they don't keep. You've talked to her about it. You've shared your concerns, you've even argued, and still she stays. Every time you see her, you feel that knot in your stomach. You want to save her, you want to shake her awake, but she won't listen. And so you carry that weight, that worry, that frustration. It eats at you. It affects your relationship with her. It makes you tired. Now imagine if you could take a breath and say to yourself, let her. Let her make this choice. Let her learn what she needs to learn. Let her find her own way. Not because you don't care, but because you understand that her life is hers to live, not yours to fix. That's the core of the Let Them theory. It's about releasing the grip we have on other people's decisions. It's about recognizing that when we try to control someone else, we're not helping them. We're hurting ourselves. But why is this so hard? Why do we struggle so much to let go? Robbins explores this question with honesty and compassion. She suggests that our need to control others often comes from fear. Fear that if they make the wrong choice, something bad will happen. Fear that their choices reflect on us. Fear that we'll lose them. Fear that we're not enough if we can't fix them. Think about a parent watching their adult child struggle. Maybe the child dropped out of college. Maybe they're pursuing a career the parent thinks is unrealistic. The parent lies awake at night worrying. They offer advice that isn't asked for. They make suggestions that are ignored. And with each rejection, the parent feels more helpless, more scared. Because deep down, they believe that if their child fails, they have failed as a parent. But here's the truth that the Let Them theory gently reveals. Your child's choices are not your report card. Your friends' relationships are not your responsibility. Your partner's emotions are not yours to manage. When we try to control the people we love, we're operating from a place of fear, not love. And fear, no matter how well-intentioned, creates distance. The book doesn't ask you to stop caring. It asks you to care in a different way. To care without attaching your peace to someone else's choices. To support without suffocating. To be present without being controlling. This is a radical shift for most of us. We've been taught that love means fixing. That caring means intervening. That being a good person means making sure everyone around us is okay. But what if being a good person actually means trusting others to navigate their own lives? What if the most loving thing you can do is step back and let people experience the consequences of their choices? Not with judgment, not with an "I told you so" waiting in the wings, but with genuine compassion and the understanding that struggle is often how we grow. Consider a workplace scenario. You have a colleague who constantly complains about their workload but never asks for help. They stay late, they miss deadlines, they're stressed and overwhelmed, and you watch this happen day after day. You've offered to help. You've suggested they talk to the boss, but they brush you off. So you start to feel responsible. You start to feel guilty for going home on time when they're still there. You carry their stress as if it's yours. The Let Them theory would invite you to pause and recognize what's happening. You're taking on something that isn't yours to carry. Your colleague is making a choice. Maybe it's a choice driven by fear of looking weak. Maybe it's a choice rooted in perfectionism. Whatever it is, it's their choice. And by letting them make it, by letting them experience the natural consequences, you're not being cold. You're being respectful. You're acknowledging their autonomy. This principle extends to every relationship in our lives. The friend who always cancels plans, let them. The family member who never calls unless they need something, let them. The partner who won't go to therapy, let them. And in that letting go, something remarkable happens. You get your energy back. You stop being consumed by what you cannot change. You create space for your own life, your own growth, your own peace. But there's another layer to this theory that makes it even more powerful. It's not just about letting others be who they are. It's about letting yourself be who you are. How many times have you dimmed your light because you were afraid of what someone would think? How many times have you said yes when you meant no because you didn't want to disappoint someone? How many times have you abandoned your own needs to keep the peace? The let them theory works both ways. Let them judge you. Let them be disappointed. Let them not understand. Because when you live your life based on what others think, you're giving away your power. You're making their opinions more important than your own truth. And that's a recipe for resentment and regret. Think of someone who stays in a job they hate because their parents are proud of their title, or someone who doesn't pursue their passion because their friends think it's unrealistic. These are people who are living for an audience instead of for themselves, and the cost is enormous. It's a slow erosion of self, a quiet betrayal of who you really are. The book encourages a kind of courage that feels almost rebellious in our current culture. The courage to disappoint people, the courage to be misunderstood, the courage to choose yourself even when it's uncomfortable. This doesn't mean being selfish or cruel. It means being honest. It means honoring your own needs and boundaries with the same respect you give to others. Imagine you have a friend who always wants to go out on weeknights, but you need your evenings to recharge. You've said yes so many times, even when you were exhausted, because you didn't want to seem boring or antisocial. But each time you say yes when you mean no, you build a little resentment. You start to dread their calls. The friendship starts to feel like an obligation instead of a joy. What if you just let them be disappointed? What if you said, "I need to stay in tonight," and then you let them feel however they feel about it? You're not responsible for managing their emotions. You're not required to sacrifice your well-being to make someone else happy. And if the friendship can't survive you having boundaries, then maybe it wasn't a healthy friendship to begin with. This is where the let them theory becomes truly transformative. It's not just a tool for dealing with difficult people. It's a framework for living authentically, for building relationships based on truth instead of people-pleasing, for creating a life that actually feels like yours. Why does this book resonate so deeply with modern readers? Perhaps because we live in an age of constant connection and constant pressure. We see everyone's choices on social media. We're bombarded with opinions and advice. We're told we should have it all figured out. And in that noise, we lose touch with something fundamental: the right to live our own lives, the right to let others live theirs. The let them theory is a kind of permission slip. Permission to stop carrying what isn't yours. Permission to stop trying to be everything to everyone. Permission to trust that people are capable of handling their own lives, even when they make choices you wouldn't make. And perhaps most importantly, permission to trust yourself. To trust that you can handle whatever comes. That you don't need to control everything to be safe. There's a gentleness to this philosophy that's easy to miss. It's not about becoming cold or detached. It's not about abandoning people you love. It's about loving them enough to respect their journey, even when it's messy, even when it's painful to watch. Because control, disguised as care, is still control, and it damages relationships in ways we often don't see until it's too late. When you let people be who they are, you give them the space to grow. You give them the dignity of their own experience. And you give yourself the freedom to focus on what you can actually change, which is always only yourself. Your reactions, your boundaries, your choices. This is the paradox at the heart of the let them theory. By letting go, you gain control. Not control over others, but control over your own peace, your own energy, your own life. And that's the only control that really matters. So what does this look like in practice? It looks like taking a deep breath when someone makes a choice you don't agree with. It looks like offering support without strings attached. It looks like saying, I love you, and I trust you to figure this out. It looks like walking away from arguments you don't need to win. It looks like protecting your peace instead of proving you're right. It's not easy. It requires practice. It requires you to catch yourself in those moments when you want to fix, to control, to intervene. It requires you to sit with the discomfort of not knowing how things will turn out. But on the other side of that discomfort is freedom. The freedom to be yourself. The freedom to let others be themselves. The freedom to build relationships based on acceptance instead of expectation. As this narration comes to a close, consider where in your life you've been gripping too tightly. Where have you been trying to control what isn't yours to control? Who have you been trying to fix? What would it feel like to simply let them? To release that burden? To trust that they have their own path just as you have yours? The let them theory isn't about giving up on people. It's about giving them back to themselves. And in doing so, you give yourself back to you. That's the gift of this simple, profound idea. It returns you to the only life you can truly live, your own. If this story resonated with you, consider subscribing to Classic Books Explained for more timeless ideas.